Hey gamers, I am the Bad Luck Gamer, and today I'm going to be talking about random chance and what happens when your character royally fucks up. So, what random chance is, as a GM, you definitely want your players to experience some kind of randomness with their characters, something randomly that can good or bad happen to them, and please try to implement it into your campaign in a natural way. Or maybe during character creation, give a player, be like, roll this die, this is your destiny die, and whatever the number is determines your destiny. And the player rolls, and then whatever the dice rolls up on, like arch rival, true love, um, dead parents, Batman. Whatever it is, then implement it into the character story, and it will make it way more interesting. The players will be like, oh man, they'll sit there and they'll think like, oh, what happened if I got this? Or if they know what the probabilities are, they'll be like, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this. And when they don't get it, they might be a little disappointed, and that might take away from what they get. So try to keep it as secret as possible, but hey, whatever your style is. Also, during the game, make certain things random chance. One thing I am probably going to start implementing, I haven't implemented yet, I'm going to throw in like a luck die, and I'm going to be like, okay, so you guys are walking along, and then you roll a luck die. They'll roll a luck die, and then depending on the number, I'm going to give a random piece of good or bad luck. And if it's like a critical success, it's a really good piece of luck. If it's a critical failure, something really bad happens. And I want to make it so that the player, and just randomly throughout the campaign, just when something seems like it's going a little slow, roll a luck die, see what you get, and then the players are always like, oh god, what's gonna happen? And it'll be really interesting. And I think it's a good way to break up monotony, or to make a certain scene more interesting when it really wasn't going anywhere. As a GM, I think this is something GM should do more often. So now, what happens when a player royally fucks up? This happens all the time. Someone is having an awful bad day. Someone just has naturally bad luck with dice rolls and kind of messes a lot of things up for them. Or the players accidentally killing the players by having the enemies critically critically succeed. And so you got to decide how you want this to happen, because it's a game. As a GM, I should say first, as a storyteller, don't be afraid to change dice results that you roll for the sake of the players, because this is something I've done many times to help save the group. Because players don't want their characters to die. Some groups are a little better with character death, and they handle it a bit better. But on the other hand, most groups don't like that kind of thing. They don't want their character to die. They're really attached to their character. So, try to avoid that happening. What I've done is when a character royally messes up and they take like a wound that would nearly kill them, I injure some part of their body somewhere, and they have to live with a cripplage. But at least with that, you can go and somehow find a way of healing them somewhere down the road. It's character element. I've had a character that got KO'd because he took too many limbs. Mostly he lost both his legs. And they didn't want to play in a wheelchair. So, yeah. But another thing you can do as a GM is player fails. He falls. He takes a massive amount of damage, but lives barely, Don't make it so that the situation, don't necessarily follow the rules, but create the situation in which the player is in like a dire strait and they need immediate help or attention. Or give another player a reaction roll, like, okay, he failed his jump check, he fell. You, quick, roll your reflexes to try to turn and grab him as you hear him scream and fall to his doom. Something like that. Make it so that there's ways players can get around royally messing up, or if there is something that royally messes the character up, make it something interesting for the story. Character loses an arm. This can be really detrimental for most characters. But then, shortly after, by destiny or some sort, character hears of a gnome who can make, a mechanical limb, or some witch who can magically heal any injury. then the player becomes determined to fix their character back to the way they were. And then it's another case of it's more of the story, not the destination for the character, and they learn some things along the way. Sometimes when a character gets injured, it's unavoidable, and the character might feel a bit sad about that. So what you can also implement is when a new character gets brought in, give them something super special to make up for the kind of loss of the other character. For instance, okay, so make a new character. All right, and now your character is one level above everyone else. Players might be angry about that. Like, okay, so we just went through all this, but this, and he failed and he messed up, and then he gets a higher level character. Well, just remind them that he doesn't have the same loot and he doesn't have the same forbearance on the story that the other characters might have. Another thing you can do is bring him in as one of the NPCs or one of the rivals, or maybe a family member of one of the other characters. This will create a new story element, will give the player something to latch onto in grievance of losing their previous character, and it makes it something more interesting for the story overall. You lost a character, but actually a new and maybe even more interesting story point occurred. So try to make random chance interesting for the players, make the bad stuff awful but not game breaking, and when the players mess up on a certain saving roll, try to make it so they either have a way to get around it, or at least with failure comes something that the players can get up on. Because a lot of really bad failures can ruin a campaign for people. It can utterly destroy them, and not everyone is going to take failure the right way. Even if it's something you give them as a special element, they might not like it. So try to make it as painless as possible for the characters, but don't make the game too easy, because if they live in a world that has no kind of, I don't know, that has no kind of, oh gosh, that they're not held accountable for doing something poorly, then the players will feel like no matter what they do, they can't really fail, and then that kind of sucks them out of the experience a bit. Anyway, gamers, ciao for now. Good luck with your characters and your botches, and I'll see you in the next episode.